Now on Mackey and Judd.
You wanted better charts that you could see the fine print on.
The pie chart of praise.
You should be singing his praises.
We'll start with Judd Zolgad here.
Ross Perot, man. Ross Perot, there's a throwback. Okay, pie chart of praise, as you mentioned, Phil Mackey, only the second time this season that we've done this pie chart.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
I've got 1, 2, 3. I have 4 pieces of pie, so it's a perfect pie. It's just split up absolutely perfectly. The biggest percentage, though, because I'm going to give an 80% chunk, and this might be low, but it worked. 80% chunk of the pie, Dalvin Cook. Yeah. Just a great day. Just a phenomenal player. And look, in my world, I would not have played him because I want him to be as healthy as possible, but he played. He apparently was fine. That's great. 80% to Dalvin Cook.
This was Dalvin Cook, by the way, on the weather, and actually, I'm sorry. This is on him wearing sunglasses to the press conference, to the Zoom press conference.
Great glasses.
Nah, I wore these in here. I wore these in here today. I don't want to show you how tired I am after the game.
Yeah, dude touched the ball like 35 times. It's ridiculous.
Second piece of pie, and he deserves it, goes to the head coach, Mike Zimmer. 16%. So it's a little bit weird here, but 16%. The defense,
not 15?
Not 15, because I actually gave a little extra chunk of pie to one unit. 16% goes to Zim. Your defense, by basically the end of that game, had no corners left. Ant Harris had moved to the nickel corner. You were making things up. You were basically finding ways to pressure Rodgers. You were doing a lot of things that I questioned with the personnel if they could even be done. And the other percentage that goes to Zim, because the more thought I gave this last night, I've become convinced, because people are going to say, well, Cousins threw 14 passes because it was windy, it was real windy. No, they took the bye week. I think that Mike went into Spielman and Kubiak during the bye week and said, Kirk can't win. He basically can't play too much. He can manage just fine. I think they spent the bye week with Mike being the driving force to eliminate Cousins from the equation. And I honestly think that that's why when Dalvin was cleared, they instantly said, he's cleared, no pitch count, no nothing.
Do you want to hear from Cousins on this, by the way? Or should we save this for later?
No, let's hear it.
All right, this is Cousins. Just talking about the balanced offense in air quotes.
Dalvin did a great job today. Anytime you score 4 touchdowns, you deserve some credit, and just a great player, dynamic player. We're always trying to find ways to get him the football. I think of a 3rd and long early in the game when I checked it down to him, and he gets us the first down in the kind of the strike zone, high red zone area. We ended up, I believe, getting a touchdown in that possession. So even those little plays that keep us on the field make a big difference. So it's not just running the ball; it's getting involved with the ball in his hands, if it's catching the ball or running it.
Okay, when I hear that, you tell me, am I being an unreasonable Kirk basher when I hear him refer to when he says, I checked it down to him on that big play and it then led to a touchdown drive? To me, I hear that and I'm totally biased because I am anti-Kirk Cousins at this point. But when I hear that, it's him being insecure and trying to inject himself into Dalvin Cook's huge afternoon. Am I reading too much into it?
I didn't hear that part, but I did hear one part. He's a quarterback. Like, these guys steel trap minds, right? Like, there are QBs who you ask them about the third down play with 3 minutes left in the first half. And they're like, oh yeah, the play went blah, blah, blah. How about the fact that Kirk says, I think we scored on that possession, almost like he was a fan. No, you did score. Okay. You did score. So I heard the same thing, just differently.
Oh, Kirk, man. Good for Kirk. Kirk's gonna check out of some of those runs next game, though, isn't he? Just to show who's boss.
The $96 million passenger. It has to be a movie, because right now he's a $96 million passenger on this train. 16%.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie. 16%
pie chart of praise goes to Zim. I gave a weird 3%, but I think it's deserved and probably more. Eric Kendricks, okay?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Kendricks, first of all, phenomenal game, just as far as a linebacker goes. But in the third quarter, I believe it was the Packers were at their own 48, and it was something like 3rd and 30 or 2nd and 30. And Aaron Rodgers throws what looks to be a darn near perfect pass, or a very nice pass, to Devontae Adams, of all people. And who's in coverage? Eric Kendricks, and he breaks it up. Eric Kendricks might have been the Vikings' best cornerback on Sunday. Yeah. He gets a slice of pie. And then my last 1%, just a little chunk, but it has to be awarded here, goes to the Packer defense. You could not tackle. Like, that was pathetic. I guess they played Houston defensively pretty well, but my God, you can't tackle. So 1% goes to the Packers defense. So 80% Dalvin Cook, Zimmer 16%, Eric Kendricks 3%, bravo, and the Packers defense 1%. That's my pie chart.
I love it. I love the precision cutting of Judd's pie chart of praise.
The Rock
here.
knows how you feel about pie.
All right, Declan, why don't you go next year? What's your pie chart of praise?
I just have 3 pieces of pie. I'm handing out 3 pieces of COVID pie, normal pie to the Vikings for this win over the Packers.
Yeah. By the way, in case you're wondering, so Judd and I both did test negative. We are back in the studio today. Declan, you're feeling a lot better, but you still have to quarantine for a few more days and stay away from us. Stay away from the office. Don't get your COVID paws on these buttons.
Well, we'll see what happens. It might be just white powder gloves coming into the studio from now here on forth. So I'll go with my pie chart here. I'm similar to Judd. 70% of my pie is going to Dalvin Cook, just because the dude was unbelievable yesterday. And I even told you going into the game and the confidence that if Dalvin Cook is healthy and active, that this offense can absolutely hum. And that's what happened. Dalvin Cook was amazing. And I know that there's a $30 million game manager and there's a handoff machine that you're paying $30 million to. But Dalvin Cook deserves all the credit. He was dynamic in the run game. He obviously was dynamic in the passing game. I believe Courtney Cronin had the note that he is the first player ever at Lambeau to have over 200 total yards and 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
That's insane. I mean, and he set numerous other records too. I know he tied a Vikings record. It's kind of amazing to think that guys like Randy Moss and AP never had 4 touchdowns in a game before. So Dalvin Cook, you get a big chunk of pie. It's 70%. Mike Zimmer gets 20% of this pie. Going into this game, so the Vikings were without 2 of their top 4 corners. They lose a couple more. Aaron Jones is out for the Packers. You knew, even with windy conditions, Aaron Rodgers should have a field day. I texted a buddy on Saturday, a big lifelong Packers fan. I said, Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for 400, 500 yards on Sunday. This guy's going to carve them up. And the Vikings defense held him in check. I mean, Rodgers still throws 3 touchdowns, but the defense this was Mike Zimmer's, as that loyal fan said at the beginning of event line, his flipping of the bird to ownership for saying, I can still do this. And I know guys like Adam Thielen claimed he was ready to play cornerback. They moved Anthony Harris into the nickel corner after for the last few series. Just a great performance from Mike Zimmer and his defense. So 20% of the pie there. Gary Kubiak gets the final 10%. And I don't know if I have to hitch this all to Dalvin. I also think the offensive line played very well. I saw the PFF grades that Riley Reif and Ezra Cleveland were actually the 2 highest graded players on the Vikings offense yesterday. So the offensive line was very good. They schemed up a very good game. And I don't know if I buy Judd's theory that they went into the game plan and said, Kirk can't touch the ball, or we don't trust Kirk to win us the game. I don't think the coaches are actually saying that. But I will say they cooked up the perfect offensive stew for a win over a 5-1 Green Bay Packers team. So 3 pieces of pie. Dalvin Cook 70%, Mike Zimmer 20%, and Gary Kubiak gets 10%.
I like it.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
So I'm actually I'm gonna side with Judd. I legitimately think if you were to put hidden cameras and microphones in the Vikings offensive meetings, I guarantee you Mike Zimmer went into, I don't know like what the logistics are, if they're just meeting via Zoom still or what, but like I guarantee there was a conversation between Mike Zimmer and Gary Kubiak that said, don't let that SOB train wreck us in this game at Lambeau Field.
Do you remember? Okay, first of all, Dex, Zim is very vindictive. If you screw him, he's going to screw you back, and it's going to be worse. Do you guys remember post-game, the Falcons game? Zim was flat out asked, why didn't you bench him? Like at halftime, he was terrible. He's unplayable. Mm-hmm. And Mike's like basically blew off the question. I guarantee you, he thought to himself, I will do worse than bench him. I will eliminate him. I will eliminate him completely. That's how this guy thinks. He hates quarterbacks. He in every way, shape, and form, because he wants to run, and he's got Dalvin. So he basically, if he's game planning for an opposing QB or he doesn't like his own, which aside from Teddy, he often does not. He's game planning to limit them. That includes his own guy.
For sure.
I really believe this. I think they spent the bye week saying, how can we eliminate Rick's $96 million mistake?
Yeah, I also wonder too if the game flow dictated some of it, and that
Sure.
like, maybe the initial plan was, listen, we're gonna jam it down their throats. Dalvin's back, and we're gonna see how that goes in the first half, and then we can maybe leverage play action and get some big plays down the field. But then when they realized the Packers defense has no interest in making a tackle today, they probably didn't even think about going to some sort of a counter punch in the second half. It was like, if they can't stop the actual run that we're trying to use to leverage play action, let's just keep running the ball. So some of it was probably game flow as
The
well.
Rock knows how you feel about pie.
So I've got 4 pieces of pie here. Dalvin Cook will get the largest chunk. You guys might be a little bit miffed. I'm giving 30% to Dalvin Cook. Like, Dalvin Cook had an amazing game.
Well, it's your pie.
Judd gave him 80%.
It's your pie, man.
So he's getting the largest chunk of my pie. But I want to give you guys some stats. Dalvin Cook. Now, mind you, he's only played 6 games this year. Other running backs like Zeke Elliott with the Cowboys, Todd Gurley, those guys have played 8 games.
Mm-hmm.
Darrell Henderson with the Rams, who's having a good season. He's played 8 games. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has played 8 games. There's a lot of like good running backs who've played 2 more games than Dalvin Cook. Yet Dalvin Cook leads the NFL among running backs in first downs obtained.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. He has more first downs than anybody in the NFL, any running back, and he's played fewer games than a lot of these top guys. He has the second most yards after contact behind only Derrick Henry. And he hasn't played as many games. Like, he's just ridiculous. So those two, I looked at those two and thought, oh my gosh. And even better, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Derrick Henry has a 94-yard run. And so there's like Derrick Henry has a couple big-time runs. Dalvin Cook's longest run of the season is only 39 yards. So the things he's doing to defenses, it's not like the Adrian Peterson, right? Famine, feast, where Adrian Peterson might run 20 times in a game and 18 of them are just like 1 yard, 3 yards, -1. And and then there's a 75 and then there's a 40, and that's how he gets to 120 yards on 22 carries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll take that too. Like, if he wants to bust a 75-yard touchdown run, you'll sign up for that. Now, Dalvin Cook did have, I think it was the screen that went for like 59 or whatever it was for a touchdown. But when a guy is that dominant and he leads the NFL in first downs and he's second in yards after contact and he's up there among the rushing yard leaders, and he's not doing it with like a 90-yard run and a 70-yard run, it's 6, it's 15, it's 20. And I think it really shows just how consistently dominant he's been this season as a running back. So he gets 30% of my pie chart.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
I'm giving 20% to the offensive line. This was the best graded offensive line performance of the entire season, according to Pro Football Focus. They absolutely blew the Packers back off the line of scrimmage all afternoon long. And if I hadn't watched all these other Vikings games this season and watched how often they get moved off the line of scrimmage, I would have thought, it just looked like a totally different unit altogether. And the fact that Ezra Cleveland gets one of the top grades of the season among any Vikings offensive lineman, that's a great sign.
Second game at right guard too.
Right. That's a great sign.
Yeah.
So 20% to the offensive line, just stepping up big time. I'm giving
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
25% to Mike Zimmer and the defensive masterpiece. So all of the things that go into the defensive masterpiece. All right. Some of the guys that played in this game for the Vikings defensively are guys that we've never even really heard of, or guys that were drafted in like the 6th and 7th rounds that were supposed to be stowed away on practice squads or stowed away on the bench. And these dudes are stepping up to pressure Aaron Rodgers. I mean, DJ Wanham had a sack and like 5 pressures in that game. He wasn't supposed to play. Like, he wasn't supposed to get anywhere near playing enough snaps to get that many pressures. So for Mike Zimmer to go out there against a Hall of Fame quarterback at Lambeau Field, even though there's no fans, so that helped the Vikings, and just take random guys who had no offseason workouts and no preseason and put them in that position to win. And I'm guessing that Eric Kendricks and Harrison Smith as communicators on the field probably had a lot to do with helping guys get where they need to be and whatnot. But that was a masterpiece. That might have been one of Mike Zimmer's top 3 defensive masterpieces as a Vikings head coach. Not necessarily statistically, even though they were great statistically, but just because he didn't have Daniil Hunter, he didn't have Unique Ngakoue, he didn't have Anthony Barr, and he just did it with a bunch of rookies and inexperienced guys.
Yeah.
So Huge chunk of the pie for that.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
And then my final chunk of pie, 25% goes to the Green Bay Packers for being one of the softest good teams in the NFL.
Oh, I only get 1% for being bad tacklers.
I mean, they were bad tacklers. That offense too. If you go look, Aaron, and I'll give you more of this on Purple Daily today too. I'll do a deeper dive into this, but Aaron Rodgers, for as great as he is when his team has the lead and when things are going well, he is mediocre when he gets punched in the mouth and when they fall down by double digits. Historically, he doesn't make those comebacks. So, I was sitting there kind of rooting for like, hey, a lot of good things have happened for the Vikings today. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if the Packers came back and won this game and the Vikings could stay in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. And when I realized the Vikings were up by 2 touchdowns going into the fourth quarter, it was like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back in these games. He just doesn't. And he didn't yesterday. He looked terrible.
Can we agree now the division stinks?
Stinks is a strong word.
Chicago's got a good defense. Their offense is awful.
There's not a terrible team in this division. If you think the Vikings can hang with the Seahawks, they can hang with the Titans. Detroit's 500 basically. They lost yesterday, but Detroit's 3-4.
I just don't think it's good.
It's not.
The East is a train wreck.
West.
The East is a train wreck. This division is filled with mediocre to slightly below, I think, clubs.
But so I would say if you were to take all the teams in the NFC East and all the teams in the NFC North, I think the 4 teams in the NFC North would all be ranked higher and better than the 4 teams in the NFC East.
Oh yeah, but I mean,
so that's the train wreck.
We could put a team together today and be slightly above Philadelphia. That Sunday night game was as bad a football as I've seen. It was I
watched the whole thing too.
It was a 1987 replacement level game, and I'm not kidding. It was that bad.
It was really bad.
That was awful to watch.
Who's that quarterback for Dallas? D'Annunzio, I don't know. His Uncle Rico's sidearm throw. Did you guys see that one? Where he just
watch a second of that game.
Yes, I did.
He ran to the sideline and then he literally did the Uncle Rico like down on one knee and flung it sideways. And it just went like through 2 defenders.
The amazing thing about that game was it was almost as if Carson Wentz said, "You stink, but I can match you." It was
4 turnovers.
It was absolutely pathetic football.
Okay, if you had a choice right now, and your options are, you can draft a quarterback in the first round, but it's not going to be Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence. So it's going to be, and Declan's going to do all kinds of scouting reports on these guys starting tomorrow. We're going to get our BYU kid scouting report.